Are Catholic men obligated to fight the good fight of faith? Hi, I'm Mike Mason. This is the Immortal Combat Podcast. The Immortal Combat Podcast is the podcast arm of Viri Christi. Viri Christi is a Catholic lay apostolate devoted to help young men attain the full stature of Christ by growing strong in mind, body, and spirit. If you'd like to learn more about our work, you can check us out online at virichristi.com. All right, this is the Rule of Life, episode 8. And the question before us today is, are Catholic men obligated to fight the good fight of faith? Which is a quote taken out of 1 Timothy 6:12. All right, last week we talked about the roles of faith and reason, okay, and how they contribute to the theological life. What we talked about is the fact that God, we can know things about God by reason alone. That's just our natural power to know stuff, like who is God, what's our world like, truths about ourselves, stuff like that. We also said there's some truths that God reveals to us through faith that we can't know without it, okay? That we have to, and what faith is when we believe something based on the authority who told us that. What theology is when faith and reason work together, okay? Now, what we're going to look at today is a way in which reason, a role reason has in the life of faith, okay? And we're going to consider whether a Catholic man is obligated to fight the good fight of faith. What I want to introduce you guys to is a discipline called apologetics and why I think every Catholic man should learn to defend his faith. Before we jump into that, I want to start with a story. In the third installment of the book, The Lord of the Rings, which is one of my favorite books all time and one of my favorite movies. The third installment is the one called The Return of the King. Now, in this section, or in this book, I should say, we see the famous ride of the Rohirrim. Okay. Now, if you've never seen this before or read it, you should pause the video right now, click on a new tab, and in YouTube, type in the ride of the Rohirrim, Rohirrim. Okay. Watch it. Take 5 minutes and come back. All right. Now that you're back. At this point in the story, okay, with the Lord of the Rings, there's a bad guy named Saruman, okay, and he runs a territory called Mordor, okay. Now the army of Mordor, which is like 200,000 guys, they're at the gates of a neighboring kingdom called Gondor, and the gates are in a town called Minas Tirith. That's like the capital of Gondor, okay. Now, this giant army's at the gates. All the people in Gondor are like, it's over, we've lost, like it's done. So everyone's sitting in Gondor and they're in despairing of their life and their future. Okay. At this point, when they're just waiting for destruction to be visited upon them, they hear these horns sound on a hill across the field. Now, the field that the army is on is called the Pelennor Fields. And this army, okay, this horn sounds announces the arrival of King Theoden and the riders of Rohan. Now, King Theoden is the king of Rohan, which is another kingdom that used to be kind of tight with Gondor, but they kind of fell out of ranks with each other. But when Rohan heard that Gondor was under assault, they responded and came to help. Okay. Now, when King Theoden's army arrives on the top of this hill, okay, everything seems to be lost. Okay, King Theoden's army is like 20,000 guys, which is a lot. But the army before him is 200,000. So they just look like this is just it. And fear strikes him. Okay, it strikes King Theoden. It strikes all of his men. I mean, they're scared. They're not going to get their way out of this. At this moment, there's this loud boom sound, and it kind of awakens Theoden out of his slumber. And he turns to his men and he said this. I want to read the speech to you guys. He says, "Arise, arise, riders of Theoden. Fell deeds awake, fire and slaughter. Spears shall be shaken, shields shall be splintered. A sword day, a red day, ere the sun rises. Ride now, ride now, ride to Gondor." And he pulls up and he seizes this great horn and he blasts it and he screams out again, ride now, ride to Gondor. And in the movie, he starts chanting, death, death. And everyone starts yelling death too, because they are embracing what's going to happen, but they didn't consider turning away anymore. Okay. They are going to ride to their glory. Okay. What's this have to do with us? Guys, the enemy is at the gates. Okay. We live in a toxic culture where the immorality, the amount of immorality you can get scrolling through your cell phone just off the chain, okay? We live in a world with bad ideas, false ideas trying to lead us astray. We have these forces attacking our church and our faith and our God. And my question for you is, are you going to be a citizen of Gondor, sitting behind the gate walls waiting for destruction, or do you want to be a rider of Rohan? Do you want to be one that will face this stuff and fight? Okay. I believe Catholic men need to wake up and start fighting. Okay. Theology, we talked about last week. Theology is a discipline, right, of faith and reason, getting to know your faith better. Totally legit. What apologetics is, it's when you use your reason to defend the faith. Apologetics is the discipline of giving a rational defense of the Christian faith. Okay, where do we see this in the Bible? 1 Peter 3:15. Listen to this. In your hearts, sanctify Christ as Lord. Always be ready to make your defense to anyone who demands from you an accounting for the hope that is in you. Listen to this. Defense to anyone. 1 Peter. Jude chapter 3. Contend for the faith that was once and for all entrusted to the saints. Contend for it. Fight for it. 2 Corinthians 10:3-6. For though we live in the world, we are not carrying on a worldly war. For the weapons of our warfare are not worldly, but have divine power to destroy strongholds. We destroy arguments and every proud obstacle to the knowledge of God, and we take every thought captive to obey Christ, being ready to punish every disobedience when your obedience is complete. Gentlemen, are you obligated to fight the good fight of faith? Yes. What I want to challenge you guys is not to be a citizen of Gondor. Too many Catholic men are just sitting with their hands, letting evil just run over our church, run over our communities, run over our families, and not doing anything about it. This is not the Christian way. Christians are meant to be fighters, particularly Christian men. And as it says in 1 Corinthians 10, guys, the real battle is a spiritual one. Okay, I have no problem with the military, and sometimes you need that stuff, okay? No, that's off legit. It's a different question, okay? So I'm no pacifist. But the real battle is for minds and souls, because that battle has eternal significance. Fellas, what is the name of this podcast? The Immortal Combat Podcast. We are coming here to learn to fight, to be equipped for our own salvation against temptations and sins that drag us down, and for the salvation of those we love by defending the truth, okay? What apologetics is, it's a discipline of defending the truth. It's a discipline of being a rider of Rohan. And guys, I want to encourage you guys to take this up. One of the things I'm challenging you guys to do, right, is to study twice per week. Not just this week, but next week and the week after that, the week after that, hopefully for the rest of your life. Why? Because you guys need to train for battle. You need to know the truth so that you can spot falsity. You need to know the truth so that you can answer errors. You need to know the truth so that you can become the man you want to be and be united with God. Okay? Guys, we have a sacred duty to do this. And it is one of the most exciting things you can do. This is why a life of sin is just completely bogus. Because a life of sin promises you excitement and all this sort of stuff. Sin is dull, boring, and awful. Guys, the true adventure is following Jesus Christ. That's the real adventure. And that's what I'm inviting you guys to. And so what I want you guys to do is you guys are thinking through this podcast. Listen to it again if you need to. Okay. Start devoting time each week to grow in your faith a little bit more, even if it's just a little bit. Okay. Every little bit counts. If you do just a little bit twice a week and you start building that, your ability to do more is going to increase. And then second, those reps, fellas, are going to start adding up. It's like lifting weights. You don't tell you're getting stronger from one lift to the next, but you do that over 6 months consistently, you start building some muscle, some definition. We need to get some muscle and definition in our minds, and you can do that just twice a week, fellas. So be diligent, do your best. If you can't do it for super long, that's fine. Let's start, let's get after it, and then we'll start building that intellectual muscle. All right. I think we're going to wrap up there. God bless you, fellas. Thanks for all the work you guys been doing so far. And I'm really looking forward to the future. So have an awesome week.